I'm Beck, and I'm going to talk about books that I need to read, also known as my library or my Libby TBR, or to be read pile. And I've actually talked about a few of these, only a few, in my end of year TBR video. And first on that list is Funny Story by Emily Henry. And this one I believe is about a woman who is almost on the cusp of like getting married to this guy, and he realizes that he's actually in love with his best friend. So he breaks up with this person and gets with her instead. So now we've got this character by herself living in Chicago, I think, but she doesn't know anybody else in this city. And then while she's there, she's like, I love my job, but I need somewhere to live. And obviously she's not living with the guy anymore. So she's like, what do I do? And then also there's another guy and his girlfriend breaks up with him. So he ends up moving in. So it's the two exes move in together, and I think obviously they get together. I've got the amount of hours each audiobook is, so I thought that would be fun to let you know as well. So I think this one is about 11 hours. The other Emily Henry one that I've got is You and Me on Vacation, and I believe it's about two best friends, and every year they go on this vacation together, but recently they've had not a falling out, but I think something's awry in their friendship. When the main female character suggests going on this vacation again, like they usually do, the guy surprises her by saying, yeah, let's go. So I think it's like a second chance romance or a best friends to lovers kind of story, but I'm not really sure how that's going to work out yet. So two Emily Henrys are on my list, and both of them are 11 hours each on audiobook. Then I thought I would see what all the hype is about with ice hockey romance, and I think this is reverse harem, which means that it's one woman and multiple guys. But I don't know if reverse harem is poly or if it's just her with each guy separately. I don't know how it works. And that's part of the reason I put it on hold, because I was like, what is going on here? So I've been told I need to read the novella first, which is about 2 hours, and it's called That One Night. And that then gives context to Pucking Around, which is the 25-hour audiobook of ice hockey romance. Like, this is the length I would expect from an epic fantasy book, and it's a romance about ice hockey. So I do not know what to expect going into this. Hopefully a lot of smutty scenes and a lot of spice, because I'm down for that excitement. So that's got a couple of weeks on the hold. I don't think I'm going to get it anytime soon, but I'm waiting and I hope I enjoy it. Also, I don't really read classics, and I have seen people's look of horror when I tell them that I have not read To Kill a Mockingbird. Yes, I know. So I've finally added it to my Libby holds. It's a 12-hour audiobook. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the writing style, because again, I don't like classics. I just don't. They put me to sleep. I can't get past it. I don't know why, they just do. Same with history. I just can't do it. And I know lumping classics together as a whole group, it's not an accurate label, because obviously every writer writes a bit different. So I'm hopeful that I like To Kill a Mockingbird, but I've put it off a couple of times because I'm scared of it. So I think I just need to feel like I'm in the right mood for it. Maybe after I finished a few series or something and I go, okay, fine, I've done the things that I needed to do. I guess I should read this now. But it's not one that I'm in a massive hurry to finish. I might actually reevaluate my library holds while I'm here, because if I'm going through them, I may as well. And that leads into the next book called I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. And she was a Disney Channel star as a kid, but her parents were quite toxic and controlling of her. And so I think when her mum passed away, it was like an alleviation to her, because it was relieving all of this control and abuse that she experienced through being a kid. And because she was a Disney Channel star, I think it was also financial control and coercion as well. So I was interested in reading the memoir, because again, human psychology is terrifying and fascinating. But at the same time, I didn't grow up with this actress. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she was in. Like, I know of the shows obviously, but I don't know because I haven't experienced Disney Channel. So I thought, why is this on my holds list? I think I initially put it on because it was 6 hours long. And to be fair, sometimes you need a short book, but I don't think it's going to be one I particularly value. So I might end up taking it off my list unless I'm otherwise convinced, but it will probably be gone. And I don't really read ebooks from my library either, because I can't get them onto my Kindle, which is very annoying. But I decided to put Big Magic on hold anyway, because even though this is a fiction outside of the realm of what I would usually read, it was recommended to me by a work colleague in the context and lens of creativity. So she said that whenever she's in a bit of a rut or she wants new ideas, she said she used to reread Big Magic, and she borrowed it from her library so often to kind of reinvigorate her that she ended up going out and buying a copy. And I want that in my life. Like, I want more creativity. I'm creative in general, but I think I need a little bit of a kick sometimes, as we all do. Like, you get into that routine of life and it's nice to have a reminder. So I want to read the first bit of this as an ebook and see if I like where it's going. And if I like where it's going, I'll get it from my library as a physical copy, or I'll buy it and, read it at home. I've also got Cultish, which is a look at modern cults like Scientology and social media gurus and how they use language to persuade and influence people. And it also talks about why cults are so frightening, and I just want to know more about the psychology of them, and I think this would be a good nonfiction to try to learn that. Personally, I find cults fascinating, but I don't like reading a lot of nonfiction. Sometimes I find it a little dry, but in seeing this book, I thought that I could give it a try and then see how I feel about it. So it is on my end of year to be read pile. If the library hold comes up again, I've put it off a couple of times because I haven't felt like it, like I haven't been in the right mood for it, but I'm hoping that by the end of the year I feel like it. Then I also borrowed Iron Flame because even though I've got the physical copy, sometimes on my commute to work and doing chores around the house, it's easier to listen to the audiobook and read it, or just listen to the audiobook in general. So that's why it's on my Libby Holds list, even though I own it physically, which seems a little bit stupid, but I like going back and forth sometimes, and depending on my mood or how tired my eyes are at nighttime, it's nice to listen to the audiobook instead of read the book physically. So I don't know if that's going to come up before the end of the year because it's got a little bit of backlog in the library hold, and I'd like to get my reread in before the third book in this series comes out in like late January. Either way, I've got it at my fingertips, and I know it's a thick book, but I'm sure I can do it. The audiobook is like 25 hours. So again, a fantasy-sized audiobook is 25 hours. I don't know what pucking around is on about. And then speaking of books that I've got physically that I've borrowed the audiobooks for, a bunch of Rick Riordan titles have popped up at my library, and I thought, this is great. I want to reread all of these. They're all roughly 11 to 13 hours long because they're kids' books, and they follow different gods. So there's Norse mythology, there is Greek mythology, and Roman mythology as well. And I want to reread a bunch of different series. So one of those is Magnus Chase and the Sword of Summer, and this is Norse mythology. So I've got this one and then this one, or, you know, books 1, 2, and 3 of the series on my holds list. I've also got more Trials of Apollo books. So I've got The Burning Maze and The Tyrant's Tomb, I think. One of them, The Tower of Nero, which I think is the last book, I actually own on Audible. So I went through a phase, I think, of buying books sometimes and listening to them on Audible or borrowing from my library. So either way, I've got the audios and the physical copies. I do like the audios. They're a great production. So if I can listen to them, then I will. But if I want to reread them, I'll just pick up my physical copies too. But they're on my radar. Usually I like reading them all one after the other. So depending on how the library holds come in, I might be able to accept them one after another. We'll see what happens with my future plan. Last year around Christmas, I reread the Percy Jackson series, and part of me really wants to reread like the Magnus Chase or the Trials of Apollo around Christmas again this year and make it kind of a recurring theme. But I've also got one of my most anticipated releases coming out on the 6th of December, and that's 1,300 pages long. And because it's so long, I think that's the only book I'm going to prioritize in December. So these might just end up having to wait either for next Christmas or at some point during next year. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. As another ebook to try out, I got The Games Gods Play, and I know that this is a Olympus inspired story, and I think it's got a cutthroat trial in there, like a magical trial that our main character has to survive. But beyond that, I didn't really read too much into it because Olympian gods and a magical trial are like two of my book buzzwords. I will try it out if it's got something reminiscent of those things in it, so I'm more than willing to give it a go. Now, this next author I've seen a bunch of places, and it seems like he's been doing the fantasy thing for a little while. So I've seen his Powder Mage series starting with The Promise of Blood, but I haven't been able to find it in my library anywhere. So I thought, okay, to try this author out, I'll go with one of his other books instead. And that was In the Shadow of Lightning. I think it's an epic fantasy quest story. Beyond that, I don't know. And I just know that it's 25 hours on audiobook. Again, it's like that sweet spot with fantasy. I'm looking forward to trying it out, but I also don't have any expectations on it. But beyond that, I haven't seen any reviews, so I don't know really what people think of it yet, and I'm looking forward to just trying it and seeing what I think. Usually fantasy can go one of two ways for me. Either I'll find it dry because it's more plot driven than character driven, or I'll end up liking it because of the writing style, so I'm really not sure yet. Then I've got another one that I think I'm probably going to delete from this list, and that is In the Dream House, and I also put this on my list because it's a 5-hour audiobook, so again a short audio, but I didn't consider the subject matter of this book when putting it on hold. And I believe it's a non-fiction book, and it follows a woman in a same-sex relationship who is being significantly abused. I don't know if it's verbal or physical, perhaps it's both, and I think it's about her escaping this house, but I don't know anything beyond that. And I thought, you know, it's going to be dark and abusive, potentially like gothic adjacent, and all of those things are not what I'm feeling like reading. So I think I might just get rid of it from my holds list. And as soon as I made that thought happen, I felt a little bit better. So I think I'm going to take it off my list. Another random one I've got is King of Battle and Blood. And I think this was a Tristan and Isolde retelling. I actually don't know why I put it on my list because I haven't read that play or that story before. I just thought of the idea and went, this sounds nice. I might read this. I think maybe also because it was fantasy and it was potentially romance involved, so romantasy. And I've been trying out different romantasies to see whether they're actually good or terrible. And spoiler alert, they're mostly terrible. So I'm not really expecting great things, which might actually lower my expectations and mean that the book is good or enjoyable. So we'll see. I'm not putting this off my list yet. I'm just seeing how we go. That was also a 12-hour audiobook, which concerns me because I'm like, is that young adult or is it adult? I guess I'll find out when the hold comes in. Then A Marvelous Light is a male-male romance that I'm keen on trying out, but it's also got that historical setting because I think it's in the 1900s maybe. And while I do genuinely enjoy that yearning, I also don't like that outing a couple is a potential thing that happens in that story. I just want them to be as happy as possible, which is why I like reading more contemporary queer romances because it's much easier for people to be accepting and find that found family. Whereas if it's set in the past, people will get up the pitchforks and fire, if you know what I mean. So I'm not really sure. I think it's supposed to be a light drama comedy, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's just a drama romance. I'll have to see what happens because I initially put this on my list and I was quite excited about it. But since the months have passed, I've actually realized I'm not as keen on it as I thought. So it might stay on as a placeholder for now, and I might try it and find out that I actually don't like it at all. Or I'll just make up my mind by the end of the year and go, you know what, I actually don't want this to carry over, and that's fine. Another one that I'm probably going to take off now, actually, in retrospect, is The Myth of Normal. And I had this one and The Body Keeps the Score on my library holds list because they are non-fictions that deal with psychology and trauma and the body. And when I read The Body Keeps the Score, yes, it was a difficult read, but for a good reason. And it went into a lot of case studies and then the doctor's notes and reflections over time. And I found that valuable enough, but I also found it to be a bit dry when I was listening to it. And I don't think I have the capacity to listen to another 18-hour audiobook about trauma. I think after The Body Keeps the Score, I'm more than happy to leave this one off my list. Goodbye, Myth of Normal. I'm good now. On a whim, I put An Unkindness of Magicians on my library holds because I realized I had it on my Goodreads want to read for a very long time. And I only just searched it on Libby and it came up as an audiobook. So I thought, may as well try it. Don't remember why I put it on my Goodreads list. Added it so long ago that I've got no idea what this is about, but hopefully it's about magic. So we'll see. It might be an urban fantasy, but beyond that, I don't know. I'm thinking dark academia and magical school. I could be entirely out of left field with that assumption, so maybe look up the synopsis to ensure that I'm not just making stuff up. That was a 9-hour audiobook, by the way. I almost forgot to mention it. And then another romantasy that I've got is A Fate Inked in Blood, and this has taken so long to even approach becoming available as a library hold because I think it's been doing the rounds in that romantasy book talk space, which also makes me nervous because I'm probably going to wait a long time like I did with Bloodguard and realize actually I hate it though. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm also suspicious that it might. It seems to have quite a heavy emphasis on fantasy, and then obviously the romance aspect will be strong as well, but it feels like it should have some deeper substance to the fantasy world, and I'm really hoping that it's not terrible. I'm really hoping. Another one that I'm really worried about is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which is 7 hours long, and a book that I got on this list because it was a cozy romance, and I'm keen to read something like that. And I hope that it's not cringy. Although because it's been doing the rounds on Book Talk, and it's like people are just discovering their love of reading for the first time, whereas I know my tastes over the past several years, so I know whether something is going to be terrible or not. To my taste, at least. It might just be a terrible book in general, but that's a whole other can of worms. I don't know if I'm going to like it. And I'm worried again because I'm needing to wait for it. But that is the game with Libby. You've got to put it on hold and then wait until it pops up. Then I've got The Courage to Be Disliked on hold as an ebook to see, again, if I like the the writing style. This one's a non-fiction though, and I got the recommendation from Lily C. Reads when I was watching her booktube channel, and because she was reminiscing on this book for a significant amount of time, it made me reflect on different experiences that I've had and interactions that I've had with people and go, I think I need to read this book. It sounds like I would get a lot out of it. Now I've only got 3 more, so the third last one is The Last Murder at the End of the World, and this is a sci-fi dystopian story of an island, and the population on this island are only thriving because the scientists are reinforcing and reinvigorating the island, because there is a fog that exists in the world that if it sweeps through then people will die, and so the scientists have engineered a way to stop the fog from killing all the people on the island basically. But then one of the scientists turns up murdered, and that means that there is a deadline of the fog could now encroach and kill the whole island. We need to solve this murder and figure out this problem. So I'm keen for a sci-fi dystopian murder mystery, and it's about 11 hours, so I think I could get through it pretty quickly. The second last one is My Roommate is a Vampire, which again is a almost urban fantasy about this woman who moves in with her roommate and he turns out to be a vampire. And I know it's a romance too. I hope that it's going to be cute. Beyond seeing that people were enjoying it on my Goodreads, I haven't read any further because I didn't want to be, spoiled for it. It's again 9 hours, so for me that's not too long, and I think that when eventually that hold comes up, it will just be a great time in between other things I'm reading. So I hope to get to that one soon. And then lastly is a 15-hour audiobook that I know I won't get to anytime soon because the library hold I've had out for several months and it still says several months wait, and that is The Three-Body Problem. And because this is such a detailed science fiction book, I feel like I'm either going to really enjoy it and get immersed in the detail of it, or I'm going to end up hating it because I've heard that this author's characters are not his strength, and he also writes women terribly, but everyone has their line, and I don't know if this is going to just fall under my line or just be too much to handle. So I'm in no rush to read this, and whenever I do a library to be read video, I feel like this is going to feature at some point, unless I end up just getting it on Audible with a credit because I'm sick of waiting, but I don't think that will happen because I don't want to spend money on it when I think that I might end up putting it down. But I'm keen to try it and see what all the fuss is about and see whether I like it or not. But that is all of my library to be read books. Let me know if you've got any down below, or even any that you would recommend so that I could even add more to my to be read pile. I would love to know. But if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.